Hi, everyone. Welcome to Digital Trust Talks, where we dive into real world challenges that are shaping cybersecurity, cryptography, and digital trust. My name is Ellen Boehm from Keyfactor, and I'm thrilled to be joined with Frank Vukovits, who is the Chief Security Scientist at Delinea, who is a leader in identity security. And they're known for delivering intelligent, seamless, and centralized authorization to secure all identities at every interaction. So we're going to dig into that a bit more today.
Yeah.
Frank brings us a unique mix of technical background and business perspective in this AI security conversation. And today we're going to be talking about one of the most urgent questions on the horizon, which is how do we secure agentic AI before it starts operating beyond our control? So welcome, Frank. I'm glad to have you.
Excited to be here, Alan, and let's dive into it. It's going to be a great discussion.
Yes. So, okay, starting at the foundation. First, can you tell me what is agentic AI? And then secondly, why does it change the security game compared to traditional automation?
Yeah. Uh, so everyone's heard about Gen AI. Agentic AI has been out there too. A lot of chatter lately. I almost like to call it Gen AI on steroids, meaning it can do a whole lot more on its own. So it's autonomous. So think about these agents. Maybe before you're used to typing something in Chat GPT and ask it to answer one question for you. And that's great. With agentic AI, we're going way beyond that. It's autonomous. It can do complex tasks or goals you might have, automating things, of course. But then it also picks up on the signals and everything that's going on around it, data that's out there, maybe access to data sources that traditionally Gen AI would not have. And it's smarter. And it takes those bits and pieces of data and thinks, I can do this for you, but I can do these three other things too. And it's a limited human intervention. It's almost a bit scary, like Space Odyssey 2001 with the HAL computer, where it's sort of out doing its own thing now. And everyone's got focused on prompts. With all these agentic AI agents out there, and they get the little army of them working together, they can do a whole lot of stuff for us, make us more efficient, more effective. But it's autonomous and it's high level tasks and goals that can be reached with very limited human interaction or management. So it's changing things for you. It's making business decisions for you, so you don't have to, which is a good and a bad thing. So it's much, we got to get a handle on those security wise, to your point, because it's so powerful, especially how these agents connect together. That's the other thing too. It's not just one-to-one, it's multiple agents can work together. And we'll talk about later about where all that places they can work together, the data they can access and the like. But that's a high level overview of what it is.
Mhm. Great, that makes sense. Yeah, it seems like there's probably a huge potential upside if we can use these agents in the right way to be
Yeah.
able to have more efficiencies and use
Yes.
our people, it's for other higher level tasks, right?
Yes.
That need to require human intervention.
Right.
So, okay, cool. So now that all these autonomous agents are going to be operating across multiple clouds, multiple applications, multiple systems, let's talk about identity and access risks. So, what are some of the biggest things that you're concerned about that you talk to your customers about? What do we have to be, worried about?
So first off, think of AI agents as machine identities. There's a whole definition back and forth between non-human identity and NHI or machine identities, and I get that. End of the day, they're machine identities, and machine identities by default usually have admin or elevator privileges, the keys to the castle, if you will. So number one, we have to understand these agentic AI agents are operating at the highest level from an authorization perspective. So it's critical that we secure them and what they can do and what they have access to do, of course. But that starts with authentication. And because these agents are talking to each other, as Agent A and Agent B, if you will, let's call them Agent 007 and 008, are talking to each other. How do we first secure that tunnel for them to communicate back and forth, right? And that's where we get into the authentication piece. And we talk about tokens and certificates and MTLS and all the great acronyms out there. But then once they're prove who they are to each other, they want to start communicating back and forth to solve these higher level tasks and access all this data. What are they allowed to do? And if they're running with full admin rights or privileges, that's something that needs to be locked down as well from a security perspective, because they have access to lots of data out there. Now we talk about the cloud and the different data sources. When I started in this space a long time ago, we had data centers with mainframes. The internet didn't exist. But now we have all these great data sources out there in the cloud, on-prem, hybrid. That's great. The agents want to have access to all that because they want to take that information and do these autonomous decisions, which is great, but that data is in different places. How do we secure all the places these agents are talking to each other, and then what they can do once they talk to each other? So if you think of that threat landscape, if you will, from a cybersecurity perspective, it's super, super broad. And we have to control that to lower the risk, because ultimately, as we'll talk about later, some of the things that could happen if some of these agents are compromised, because it's so broad, the threat landscape is so wide, the attack surface, if you will, lots of damage can be done that you may or may not even know about because they're autonomous. They're out doing their own thing. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I was actually taking a look at one of your white papers before this, and it said that for every one human
Yeah.
identity in the
Yeah.
world, now there's 46 non-human
Yes.
identities.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
like a 46x
Yeah.
in terms
Yes.
of things that we need to
Yeah.
secure to be able to
Yes.
trust them. That
Yep.
kind of blew my mind because I live in the
Yep.
IoT world, right? And
Yep.
we always talk
Yep.
about how there's so many IoT devices
Yes.
versus people
Yes.
because you have
Yeah.
cell phones, you have like a
Yeah.
smart speaker. But then
Yeah.
when I thought about, okay, NHIs that are now used for
Yep.
running
Yep.
workloads. It's just the scale of that even exists today. That's huge. And then
Yeah.
how is that going to grow in the future? So yeah, so some of the tools that we do have, and you kind of mentioned this, is PKI, public key
Yep.
infrastructure. So things like MTLS, use of ephemeral
Yep.
certs that are there, and then
Yep.
that they authenticate, or hardware bound keys. That's building secure
Yep.
communication. So maybe a question to kind of adding on to that is, how do we trust what about how do we trust these inputs? Because we're basing these systems around data. How do really digital signatures, how does certificate validation
Yep.
really help protect against bad or manipulated inputs
Yep.
that we are trying to
Right.
prevent against in these AI agents?
Yeah. So a couple of things there from a risk perspective. Think about it. It's one, if an agent's compromised, what data can it get to? And
Hmm.
obviously that's a problem, right? But two, what if the agent that's compromised gets your data and changes it, and then that data is used by another agent to make a business decision? So we talk a lot about data loss prevention, and I know in the cybersecurity world with ransomware and extortion and the like. But think about this in the AI world. What if these agents are compromised and they're getting access to your data? Yeah, they could strip stuff out to sell it. But what if they're changing or manipulating the data? Another agent doesn't know it was compromised. Now business decisions are being made on compromised data. So a lot of little spider webs there from risk perspective. And more broadly speaking, here's the good news, folks. And you mentioned a lot of those technologies. We've been using a lot of those technologies in authentication for a long, long time. Let's break these AI agents down. Know they can do stuff faster and autonomously and with little limited supervision. That's great. But at the end of the day, it's still a machine identity trying to do something out there that has elevated privilege. Well, we've used those authentication protocols for a long time. Why would we not still be using them? If some of these agents reside on a piece of hardware, let's use the tools that are used to secure those keys on that piece of hardware. So we can reuse the technologies we've been using to reel in these AI agents from an authentication perspective. And then ultimately, too, we talk about concepts like least privilege and what can you do once you have access. So you authenticate, let's say you're walking into a house and you authenticate, you can get into the house because you have the key to the front door. Well, then in that house, what rooms can I go to? Well, I can go into the office and I have a key to get in the office. Okay. Authorized to be in the office, but then there's a desk and I have 3 drawers in the desk. Which of those drawers do I have the key or the passcode that I authorize to get into that drawer of the desk? And then can I grab the pencil? So you can look at authorization, all these different levels. Same thing holds true here for the Agentic AI and what these agents can or cannot do once we get them authenticated. So we really need to focus and realize we don't have to deploy a bunch of brand new technologies to lock these AI agents down from an Agentic AI perspective. We can use industry proven standards around certificates and PKI and all the stuff you mentioned as well. We just have to know that these agents are a different type of input into the technology we're going to use to secure them, and realize that the risk level is high because of what they can do once they're authenticated and what they're authorized to do. So that's where we really need to we need to attack these projects, saying not the first time we've done it. It's a different input. Meaning what do we need to secure? But guess what? We can use a lot of the same technologies. Now, let's
Hmm.
not get lost in the shiny ball called Agentic AI. Let's think about what's the proven technologies we've used and let's deploy them accordingly to this new resource, if you will, we need to secure.
Yeah, that is a great way to put it. And it seems like it's a layered approach.
Yes.
Right, so once you get in the door, I really liked your analogy. It sounded like an escape room that I took my Girl
Yep.
Scout troop to over Christmas. There was like you had to have these different
Yep.
drawers open
Yep.
at different layers.
Yep.
But
Yep.
anyway, yeah, no, great point. So let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's use these
Yeah.
proven technologies
Yes.
that we have already known to work, to prevent some of these new things that we're seeing, which is
Yeah.
this AI driven ransomware, or personalized phishing attempts,
Yeah.
because these agents can then look at all this different public data and then help make it hard for the normal person to
Yeah.
figure out, is this legitimate or not
Yes.
legitimate. So
Yeah.
it's like it's manifesting itself in a different way, because now I think it's touching more people and it's doing it faster.
Faster, speed of light.
So
Yes, faster,
it's
faster for
right.
sure.
So, but again, so let's not freak out, but let's figure out how can we
Yeah.
use some of the tools that we have, credentials like
Yeah.
keys, certificates to
Yeah.
authenticate these workloads and things.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you talk about credentials. I mean, certainly we talk about certificates and one-time certificates and the like. We've used that for privileged accounts, right? From a PAM perspective and the like, we've had tools out there to do that. Let's treat it the same way. Let's just
Mhm,
treat it the same way. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about visibility and governance. So I
Yes.
think this is also something that is really important. For my world, we talk about, again, there's always issuing the
Mm,
identity, but then having
mm,
a way to manage them, to automate them, to detect when something is
mm,
maybe an anomaly. And then
mm.
have policies and governance around
Yeah.
that. So, from your perspective, you must talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
What do organizations do? What can they start doing right now to
Yeah.
build this trusted
Yeah.
foundation for
Yeah.
managing all of these?
Yes, we could talk all day. Well, there's conferences about AI governance. The auditor in me loves to talk about governance. And again, folks, it's a different governance project. It's this new technology called AI, though I know it's not new. What's called Agentic AI too. We've put governance programs together before. We need to do it again, but it starts with first we better inventory where all these AI agents exist, right? You can't govern what you don't know. So how are we going to govern AI agents and the identities that they bring to the table without first inventorying? So that's number one. And then when you inventory them, uh, I know I talk a lot about liking to see what can that agent actually do. Where's a document of what that agent can do? Who are they traditionally supposed to interact with, if you will? Is there anything in there, the person that built the agent, if you will, has documented it? Like we used to put in lines of code. Okay, this code is going to do A, B, and C, and it requires this level of access. What happens? A lot of these agents aren't well documented, and they're certainly running wide open with elevated privileges or just admin rights. So it makes it difficult to know what they're supposed to do, and people are afraid. People used to be afraid to turn off service accounts, which ran with elevated privileges because they're afraid if we try to lock down that service account, maybe it's going to disrupt a business process because we don't really know what it's supposed to do. So first we got to inventory it from a governance perspective, understand what it's supposed to do, and then document that. And then we start taking a risk-based approach, right? I love to say, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time.
Mhm.
And the auditor in me would tell you, risk-based approach, you do a risk assessment of all these AI agents, if you will, which are the ones that appear to be the ones who can do the most damage. Once you inventory them, and then you start locking them down first, and they move down to the next level and the next level. Maybe it's a high, medium, low, but ultimately, from a governance perspective, you have to know where they are, what they can do, what type of technologies you've deployed now to secure those identities of those agents, and are they in the inventory of all the identities you've identified that you're already securing other types of identities, just they're another type of identity, and they have a risk ranking, if you will, and securing them accordingly. And then the other thing, though, I think is critical is to know what data sources they might be going to. And this one doesn't get talked about a lot. Uh, think about it, double agent 07, 08 are the same company. Agents work inside the same four walls, if you will. But then they're talking to double agent 09, who's at another company. And that agent talks to a bunch of other agents and data sources. And they're on the cloud, and you got on-prem and cloud stuff going on. That what I like to call the agentic AI personal data supply chain with all these resources out there these agents are talking to. You better make sure your trusted business partners that you're connecting with their agents follow the same security principles and frameworks that your own company does. And that's from a governance perspective critical. That now when we're vetting vendors that we want to do business with and we're going to do all this great AI stuff, what's their information security program look like? What tools are they deploying? What frameworks are they following? What certifications do they have? Do they have ISO 27001 certification or FedRAMP certification, whatever it might be? People forget about that. And I would be scared to connect my army of AI agents to another army of AI agents at a third party unless I knew they had the same security standards as I had, because the chain is only as strong as its weakest link.
Mhm. For sure. Yes, thank you
Yeah.
for that perspective.
Yep.
So I know we're getting close on time, and
Yep.
I do have a couple hot takes that I wanted to get into. So this is sort of like a little speed round. If we had more time, I could ask more questions, but I'm going to start with
Yep.
one. I'm going to throw out this statement and just let me
Yep.
know agree or disagree, and then just like a
Yep.
couple quick words on it. So the question is a or statement: agent-based automation is riskier than human error. Agree or disagree, and why?
Agree. Agree. Because guess what? I can go to HR department and I know the name of every single employee, every single human that we have employed, and probably hopefully contractors. If I have an inventory of all those agents and know what they can do, how do they authenticate, and then what they're authorized to do, that's scary. And know they, unfortunately, they can think a lot faster than you and I can at some task, at some task. And so the damage they could do before you catch it, and that's again, we're talking about prevention versus detection. Put my auditor hat on again. Yes, I would definitely say that the agent based automation is a bit riskier, scarier than human error. Absolutely.
Hmm. Yeah, but it's again something we can't avoid. It's something we got
Yeah.
to figure
No, we
out
can't.
how to
Yeah.
leverage. And I think we got
Yeah.
enough smart people, humans, in the world that we
Yeah.
can do this. So,
Yes. Yes.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. We've had some really powerful points today. If I summarize a couple of the key takeaways, so agentic AI, it's a new kind of non-human identity, and we have to treat it as such. Again, don't be afraid of it. Use the technologies that we have and the tools that we have, PKI, certificates, digital signatures. These are all really critical enablers of securing these AI interactions that now we're sort of getting into. And so with that, and you had some really good tips around governance and how to be prepared for audits. Let's build up visibility and understanding what we have, and then governance and then automation around it, so that we are being able to take control and be able to handle things at scale before they become unmanageable. So that's
Absolutely.
kind of my
Absolutely.
summary of what you shared
Yep.
with us. I really appreciate it.
Yep.
So, but Frank, any last advice for leaders watching this as they're starting to plan their AI security
So,
roadmap?
so I'll go back to the elephant analogy. If this seems like a monumental task, you still eat an elephant one bite at a time, folks. And AI, agentic AI is new technology. But guess what? We figured out BYOD way back when. We figured out Y2K. It seemed like this huge task. All these new
Hmm.
shiny ball technologies that come out, we figure out a way to secure them and govern them. And this is no different. It just is moving fast and gets a lot of attention, but we can do it. A lot of the tools we have today. But you got to crawl, walk, run. You
Hmm.
can't do it all at once. So take that risk-based approach and realize that ultimately these tools are going to help your company and automate things, which is a good thing. But we can't get lost in all the chatter out there about, oh, geez, this could happen, this could happen. Build a plan, build some governance around it, take the risk-based approach, and secure things just like you've been secure things forever with the technologies and tools you probably have in place already.
100%. Well, thank you so much, Frank. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. If this really sparks some thinking, please give us a follow here on LinkedIn. Check out our blog on Agentic AI and digital trust. And stay tuned. There's more digital trust talks that are going to be coming out throughout the over time. So see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.